What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are discussing by far and away the number one issue that we deal with here in the gym. It is such an issue. It is the number one asked question on Reddit, in the powerlifting group, the weightlifting group, not so much the weightlifting group, but definitely the powerlifting group and the form check group. By far, the number one asked question. This is such an issue that some people have devoted and made entire YouTube channels dedicated to this one issue. And that one issue is, how do I squat deeper? So let's dig into this and get into some mobility work, some technique work, and the best ways for you to squat deeper. Let's go. The 4 things that are preventing you from squatting deeper are: first one, mobility; second, strength; 3, technique; and 4, it is fear or lack of confidence. So let's dig into each one of these topics and hopefully show you how you can squat deeper. All right, let's go. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Let me be really clear about something. Rolling on the roller is not mobility. All right, I am going to take you guys through my entire warm-up, my squat warm-up. I also use this for weightlifting. So squats or weightlifting, this is my mobility warm-up that I do every single day pretty much. Also, this is the same warm-up that I put our class through and the warm-up that I recommend for all of my lifters. Let's take a look. All right, let's get into this mobility work. And what you're gonna see here in a lot of these movements is what we call active stretching. So you're gonna see me moving and pushing into the stretch. So here we are in a wide stance on the floor. Normally I would do 10 to the front, 10 to the left, 10 to the right. I'm only doing 5 here just for the sake of speeding up this video. Now, from there, we are going to go into a spinal twist. So a lot of the spinal twist stretches, what we are doing here is opening up the back. We're stretching the back, we're moving the spine, and all of these things are connected, right? Your spine is connected to your hips, all of the muscles in your back connected to your spine, and those muscles then connect into the hips. So basically the theory is, if we can open up the back and get your back moving better, this will help us get the hips moving better. If your back is tight, your hips are probably going to also be tight. These things are connected. I hate to tell you this, but they are not individual. There's no one magic stretch that's going to open your hips up. We have to stretch everything, the legs and the hips and the back. So from the spinal twist, we're just going to go into this scorpion push-up. Very simple, just keep the thighs and the hips on the floor. Try to push the chest and the back up as high as you can. From there, we are going to go into, this is, if I remember correctly from yoga, child's pose. And what we are doing here is trying to push the hips back while pushing the chest down. We're going to keep this stance in the knees and the hips back, and we're going to get into a little bit of lat stretch. And very simple, right? Just fold one hand over the top of the other, and that will stretch into the lats. Again, we're trying to stretch the muscles in the back to open the back up, which will then help us open up the hips. All right, from there, we're gonna go back to the middle tabletop position. We're going into cat-cow. Now, this isn't just up and down. It's also in and out. You'll see that from the side view. We're trying to tuck the hips in as we pull the back up. We're trying to push the hips back when we tuck the back down, right? So we're moving into these stretches. We're actively pushing into the stretch. From there, we're going to go into thread the needle. And again, this is just another spinal twist. So we're putting movement into the spine, into upper and lower thoracic, trying to get that spine and the back to relax and open up. And that will then help us open up the hips. Now, when you're doing this one, many of these stretches, if you can visually spot the ceiling or the floor where you are tight, each time you go through it, you can see if you can push past that point just a little bit, to push just a little bit deeper and a little bit further into that stretch. Now, from here, we are going to go into one of my favorites. And if you are mobility challenged, you will definitely feel this one, and this is half pigeon. Now, the goal here is to get the shin as straight across as we can get it, and to keep the hips as square as we can. This isn't going to be easy for everybody, especially if you sit in a chair at a desk for work all day. This is going to be very uncomfortable. Now, you will see when I go into my right side is even tighter. And again, we're pushing into this stretch. We're putting movement into it. We're actively going down and up, trying to push a little bit deeper into that stretch each time. Now, the modification for this one is to put that shin across a bench or a box. Now, from here, we are going into what's known as 90-90. And that 90-90 describes the angle of your knees. So we're trying to keep the knees at a 90-degree angle, and we're shifting side to side, left to right. We're trying not to move the feet, and we're trying to stay as upright as possible. Again, if you are mobility challenged, this is going to be a very difficult stretch, but take your time with it and just move through the stretch. You don't have to do it quickly. Now, from there, we're just going into a very simple forward bend, and this is just hamstring and lower back. From here, we are ready to go into this squat hold. Now, when we're in this squat hold position, all we're trying to do is keep the weight in the middle of the foot. We start off with some movement, actively pushing the knees out. So push your elbows into the inside of your knees, trying to push the knees out to the side. Again, we're actively trying to push into the stretch to get as much as we can out of it. From there, we're going to go into an arm raise. And what we're trying to do here is get the back to open up a little bit. We're trying to get as upright as possible. From there, we're going back into a little bit of a spinal twist. And this gets into a little bit of shoulder mobility, which will actually help you if you're a power lifter on your bench press, and it will help you with your mobility in holding the bar on your back for back squats. So this is a good one for the power lifters too. So again, pushing against the leg, trying to twist back as far as we can. From there, this one's my favorite. Keeping the heels on the floor, trying to keep the feet flat. You're going to stack the hands in front of you, and it's just a down and up, trying to take that forehead down, right? Again, keep the feet flat and keep your balance. All right, from here, I'm going to show you guys a modification and variation to that squat hold, and it's using a rack. You're going to see a lot of people do this, but they're going to do it incorrectly. And the incorrect part comes right here. And it's when you relax too much into this stretch. If you are falling back onto your heels, you're really holding onto the rack for dear life, right? What's going to happen is your back's going to round over. So this is what we want right here. We want to be upright. What we don't want is for that back to flex and drop down. We don't want to sit back onto our heels. Again, we want to be in the middle of our foot for our balance. We want to try and keep our chest up, keep our eyes up, and not fall down. When we fall down, this says that we are really mobility challenged. So we want to try and stay upright, keep the eyes upright, keep the back and keep the posture upright. Keep your balance in the middle of your foot. And that is the proper way to do this stretch. Not sitting back and rounding, but staying upright and keeping our balance in the middle of our foot. All right, we're going to move into a quad stretch. Now, this is going to get into the quads and the hip flexor. To get into the hip flexor, all we have to do is push that hip forward a little bit. We can get a little deeper into it by raising the arm and pushing to the other side of the stretch. This is what's known as a couch stretch. Now you can use a box, you can use a chair, you can use a bench, or an actual couch. I would suggest putting something soft underneath your knee just to make you a little more comfortable. Now, this is a more advanced, more aggressive version of this stretch. If you're challenged in the mobility, do not go right to this one. Go to the previous one with your foot on a bench or a couch or a chair. And that is it. Now let's get into some ankle mobility. All right, a big issue with squats is going to be ankle mobility or dorsiflexion, right? Now, ankle mobility and dorsiflexion issues come from a lot of different things. One is just how your body developed as you grew up through adolescence and puberty and became an adult. One is how active you are, how much weight you carry, and a big one is what you did growing up as a kid, a youth, and a junior. If you played sports, if you played soccer, if you were in gymnastics, very popular sports for kids. If you ran a lot, cross country and track, football, all very popular sports, basketball as well. All of these sports involve a lot of running and jumping, and a lot of these sports will inevitably, you will have an ankle injury. You will roll an ankle, right? When this happens, we develop scar tissue in the ankle joint, and this starts to produce very tight ankles. And dorsiflexion is how far I can push my knee over my toe, right? Now, the easiest way to stretch this is not the most fun way or the most comfortable way, but it is the simplest way to stretch this. Now, if you have tight ankles, this is not going to be very comfortable, but it is something that you have to do. We are not stretching muscle here. We are stretching connective tissue and possibly getting into scar tissue. And that is going to be very uncomfortable, sometimes painful, and it requires daily mobility work. And yes, I said daily. To do this, this is very simple. We need a box and we need a weight. You can use a dumbbell. You can do this at the bottom of the squat with a bar. You'll see people do that. I'm not a huge fan, but that's just me. I don't have tight ankles, so I don't have problems with this stretch. Now, all you're gonna do is grab a kettlebell, put it on top of your leg, right? And we're gonna use that weight to push that knee forward, right? And we just wanna stay here for a good 20, 30, 60 seconds. And then if it's really uncomfortable, right, you can release and then start again. Go another 20 seconds. If this leg starts to get fatigued, right, you can just lean this leg up against the box. Very simple, right? All we're looking for is really maximum flexion, keeping this straight. If we start going to the side, right, your foot should be flat. If we start going to the inside or we start going to the outside, we have a problem. This means your body is avoiding this stretch as much as possible, right? So if you feel your knee starting to go to the side, if you feel your foot starting to flex inside or outside, right, back off of it and just go a little bit slower. Don't go so deep. The goal is to get the hamstring to the calf, right? But still keeping the knee straight over the foot. If we go to the side, this is where we're going to run into issues. But if we can get that hamstring to sit on the back of the calf, we're doing good. So this is a good one. Anybody that has tight ankles, this is what you need to be doing. And like I said, you need to do it every day because this connective tissue and that scar tissue built up in your ankles does not like to stretch. So this is something you have to do every day. Now, time to talk about squat shoes. I would be doing you a huge disservice if I did not talk about one tool that will absolutely help your squats if you are mobility challenged, and that is squat shoes. Don't get those too close to your nose. If you get a pair of squat shoes, highly suggest you get a pair of trees, right? Just Google these, shoe trees, all right? They're made out of cedar and they will soak up all of the sweat inside of your shoes so your shoes won't stink so bad, all right? Now, squat shoes, how these work, this is very simple. This has an elevated heel. Now, heel height plays a big part of helping you if you are mobility challenged. Your smallest heel is usually going to be a 1/2 inch. Adidas makes the Powers. Those, I believe, have a 1/2 inch heel. Now, 1/2 inch heel is going to be if you just have a little bit of mobility challenge. Also, if you're just a hobby lifter or you're just doing like athletic conditioning classes, CrossFit, if you don't need a huge heel height, the 1/2 inch will be fine. Now, most weightlifters and most power lifters and most mobility challenged people will want a 3/4 inch heel. This is a 3/4 inch heel, and this is the newer, although now discontinued, which is very sad. These are great shoes, the Leistung. Now, the Leistungs have a little bit over 3/4 of a heel, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that, but it's over 3/4 for sure. Now, if you're really mobility challenged, you can get into, I believe, some of the Chinese shoes, the Antas or the Lu Xiaojun shoes. Those have close to a 1 inch heel. I think the Velocis also have a 1 inch heel. I don't know about the new tier shoes. I believe the tiers are 3/4 or just over 3/4. So that's what you're looking for. That's usually the sweet spot, is that 3/4 to 7/8 of a heel. And basically, this is gonna change the geometry of your ankle and your mobility, your dorsiflexion. This is gonna allow you more of an upright shin angle as you go down into the bottom of the squat. So these shoes are definitely gonna help you. This is a question that, again, is frequently, I mean almost weekly on Reddit. This is a question that we get from almost all of our weightlifters, power lifters, new clients at the gym is, should I be using or wearing squat shoes? And 9 times out of 10, my answer is yes, because most people, if you have a desk job, you sit in a chair all day, if you have ankle mobility issues, any sort of mobility issues, these are definitely going to help you. These are also going to help you because they're very flat on the bottom and you're going to feel flat on the floor. You won't feel any roll side to side in these shoes. And this is a huge thing when we start talking about technique and I start talking about pushing your knees out, we start talking about knee cave, a lot of other issues. right? This plays back into the mobility and the dorsiflexion, and that all will absolutely be helped by a pair of squat shoes. So if you are asking the question, should I be wearing squat shoes? 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. So go ahead and pick yourself up a pair of squat shoes. And that is it for the mobility section of this series. Now, stay tuned for part 2. We are going to get into strength work. Part 3, we will get into technique work. And part 4, we will get into confidence and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable on depth. So stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Peace.